Good morning, everyone. I'm Doug Smith. This is Miss Chastity Kraft, and we're going to talk a little bit about job shadowing, and we're going to do a couple of vocabulary strategies and reading comprehension strategies to kind of help you to learn a little bit about how to decode or how to figure out how to pronounce certain words and how to find definitions and of words that we may run across today during our presentation. So we're going to start out by reading a little book called Tops and Bottoms. And first we're going to discuss a little bit about tops and bottoms. As Ms. Cheryl was saying earlier, we're going to be doing job shadowing or discussing job shadowing and talking about what would you see or what would some things that you may see as far as a gardener. And that's maybe one of the words that we talk about today is gardener, and as we talk about gardening. So Ms. Chastity, give us a little background on the book. So as we're reading the book, this book has a couple characters in it. One of them is bear, and one of them is the hare, or a rabbit. So the bear is a very lazy bear, you know. So one of those traits that you would not want to have would be lazy. And as we read the story, you'll see how lazy the bear is. And then the hare is very, energetic. He's very goal-oriented. He's driven. He's already got a goal in mind. He's got made good decisions, and he's working on ways to achieve that goal. So good decision making, not being lazy, hard working are some of the traits that we'll be talking about in the story. So
yeah, and those are also good characteristics to have when you want to have a job and be successful at your job as well. When we go into reading a story, so a strategy that your teachers you may want to use at any time you want to read a story that we're going to do is build some background knowledge. And building background knowledge is one strategy that helps with reading comprehension and to understand and get the whole idea of what's going on. So our story, as Doug said, was tops and bottoms. So what it talks about gardening, and some vegetables we eat the tops of those vegetables when we plant them and they grow. And then on some of the vegetables, we eat the bottoms. So before we get into this, so that you guys can have a better understanding, let's talk about some of the vegetables that we would eat the tops of those vegetables. For example, one of them that I could think of that we would eat the tops would be lettuce.
Okay. So the tops, that's the part that grows above the ground. So cabbage. Would that work?
Yeah, that would work.
What about, I'm thinking maybe cucumbers?
That's another one.
And I think someone said earlier that their favorite plant was a tomato.
Oh,
so would
yes.
a tomato plant be a tops? Yeah, I think that would be tops as well.
And I love tomatoes.
Oh, yes. And watermelons, they grow on top of the ground, so watermelons would be the tops of the plants that we'd eat.
Yeah. And then we also have bottoms. Some of the plants we do not want to eat the tops of some because that would just be the leaves and not the good part. So some examples of vegetables that we would eat the bottoms would be carrots.
Okay. Potatoes.
Radishes.
Onions. So all right, so we'll go ahead and read the story and then we'll get into doing our vocabulary lesson. And so hope you enjoy the story. Just kind of pay attention a little bit of the plants that you would eat the tops of and the bottoms of, and think about some of the decisions that Bear had to make and if they were wise decisions. Tops and Bottoms by Janet Stevens. Once upon a time there lived a very lazy bear who had lots of money and lots of land. His father had been a hard worker and a smart business bear, and he had given all of his wealth to his son. But all Bear wanted to do was sleep. Not far down the road lived a hare. Although Hare was very clever, he sometimes got into trouble. He had once owned land too, but now he had nothing. He had lost a risky bet with a tortoise and had sold all of his land to Bear to pay off the debt. Hare and his family were in very bad shape.
The children are so hungry, Father Hare. We must think of something.
Mrs. Hare cried one day, so Hare and Mrs. Hare put their heads together and cooked up a plan. The next day, Hare hopped down the road to Bear's house. Bear, of course, was asleep.
Hello, Bear. Wake up. It's your neighbor, Hare, and I have an idea.
Bear opened one eye and grunted.
We can be business partners,
Hare said.
All we need is this field right here in front of your house. I'll do the hard work of planting and harvesting, and we could split the profit right down the middle. Yes, sir, Bear. We're in this together. I'll work and you sleep. Huh?
Said Bear.
So what'll it be, Bear?
Asked Hare.
The top half or the bottom half? It's up to you. Tops or bottoms?
That sounds like a pretty good deal for her.
Yeah. Let's see.
Bear said with a yawn.
I'll take the top half, Hare. Right. Tops.
Oh, so all Bear has to do is just let him have the land and he gets the tops?
Yeah.
That's a good deal for Bear.
Yeah. He thinks he has it made.
Yes. Hare smiled.
It's a done deal, Bear.
So Bear went back to sleep, and Hare and his family went to work. Hare planted, Mrs. Hare watered, and everyone weeded. Bear slept as the crops grew. When it was time for the harvest, Hare called out.
Wake up, Bear. You get the tops, and I get the bottoms.
Oh, good deal. Hare and his family dug up the carrots, the radishes, and the beets. Hare plucked off all the tops, tossed them into a pile for Bear, and put the bottoms aside for himself. Oh, this is what Bear gets. Bear stared at his pile.
But, Hare, all the best parts are in your half. You chose the tops, Bear.
Hare said.
Now, Hare, you've tricked me. You plant this field again, and this season I want the bottoms.
Hare agreed.
It's a done deal, Bear.
Ah, I think Bear made a wise decision this time. What do you think?
Yeah. He thinks he's on it now.
Yes, so Bear went back to sleep and Hare and his family went to work. They planted, watered, and weeded. Bear slept as the crops grew. When it was time for the harvest, Hare called out.
Wake up, Bear. You get the bottoms, and I get the tops.
Ah, good deal. Hare and his family gathered up the lettuce, the broccoli, and the celery. Hare pulled off the bottoms for Bear and put the tops in his own pile. Bear looked at his pile and scowled.
Hare, you have cheated me again. But Bear,
Hare said.
you wanted the bottoms this time.
Tricky rabbit. Bear growled.
You plant this field again, Hare. You've tricked me twice, and you owe me one season of both tops and bottoms. You're right, poor old Bear.
Sighed Hare.
It's only fair that you get both tops and bottoms this time. It's a done deal, Bear.
So Bear went back to sleep. I think Bear's got him this time. He's going to get both tops and bottoms. There's no way getting around that. So Bear went back to sleep, and Hare and his family went to work. They planted, watered, and weeded. Then watered and weeded some more. Bear slept as the crops grew. When it was time for the harvest, Hare called out.
Wake up, Bear. This time you get the tops and the bottoms.
Good deal. Bear's got it. There in front of Bear's house lay a high field of corn. Hare and his family yanked up every corn stalk. Hare tugged off the roots at the bottom and the tassels at the top and put them in a pile for Bear. Then he carefully collected the ears of corn in the middle and placed them in his own pile. Are you kidding me? Bear rubbed his eyes and watched.
See, Bear? You get the tops and the bottoms. I get the middles. Yes, sir, Bear. It's a done deal.
Oh, by now Bear was wide awake.
That's it, Hare, he hollered. From now on, I'll plant my own crops and take the tops, bottoms, and the middles.
Hare and his family scooped up the corn and hopped down the road toward home. He's probably glad to get away from Bear, as angry as he was. Bear never again slept through the season of planting and harvested. Hare bought back his land with the profit from the crops, and he and Mrs. Hare opened a vegetable stand. And although Hare and Bear learned to live happily as neighbors, they never became business partners again.
The end.
I thought Bear had him at the last when he wanted to talk to
Oh,
him.
Bear thought he had him too.
Yeah.
He thought he could be lazy and still come out.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious, as lazy he was. And I think one of the key things you've got to think about too is one of the words that we heard in there is that we need this spot of land or plot of land for a garden. So what word are we going to look at? So,
Yeah. I
So-
like that little nugget you pulled out of there.
Thank you. So I think both Hare and Bear were gardeners, maybe. Well, one of them was. The other one was a sleeper. Was all you can
Exactly.
say,
Yes,
so.
because Bear did not do any of the planting,
No,
or he
not
didn't
until
do
the
any of the work until the end.
Till the end.
Until the
Then he
end.
decided I better do something or I'm going to start.
Right.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed the story. Now Miss Chastity's going to talk about a couple of the vocabulary words and a strategy that you can use to help decode words that may be unfamiliar to you, to help learn how to pronounce the words and determine the definition of that word that's unfamiliar to you. So she's going to use a word map, and I think in your crates, in your bags, you should have with you a word map. And if you want to get that out, please get that out so you can follow along with us and go through this with us. And then also there should be some index cards in there. You may want to get one of those out for, we're going to do another activity with one of those in a few minutes. So, Miss Chastity?
All right. Okay. We'll get right into it. So as we mentioned, gardeners, the hare and bear at the end were gardeners. So let's use that as our first word for today. So on your word map, the first box says word. So we're going to write gardener.
That's up at the very first line of your the handout that you have. That's gardener. Gardener. Gardener.
Okay. So as you're going through this, so this is an example of just a vocabulary instructional routine for you teachers out there, and then you're going to write it, and then we're going to go into what this is going to look like. So we're going to say the word. The word is gardener. Okay. Then now you guys, everybody say it with me. You ready?
Gardener.
Good job. Now this could be a big word, and it might be a little bit overwhelming when you first look at it. But we could break it down. So we're going to look at the syllables in the word of gardener. One way that you can do this is we call this scooping. So we're going to scoop our syllables. So in gardener, we're going to gardener. So this one has 3 syllables. Gardener. Gardener. Now, this is one way to draw it, and then there may be another way that you may be more familiar with, and that is clapping. So you can clap your syllables. So we'll do this one more time, and Doug's going to clap them, and I'm going to scoop them. So you guys can clap along with us, with Doug, and let's do this one more time because we want to make sure that you can pronounce your vocabulary word, because if you can't pronounce it correctly, you're not going to know what it is. So one more time. Ready? Gardener. Good job. Okay. After you get the word pronounced, then we're going to break it apart. These next row boxes, we have a prefix, a root, and a suffix. Now what this means, a prefix could be usually 2 to 3 letters that go at the beginning of a word. And those 2 or 3 letters themselves have a meaningful part that they can mean something. The root would be a full word that you could find within the bigger word that has a meaning. And then your suffix is usually 2 to 3 letters that couldn't stand alone as a word, but those 2 to 3 letters would also have a meaning. The only difference between a suffix and a prefix is the prefix goes at the beginning and the suffix goes at the end. So let's look at gardener and see if we can find any of these word parts.
Okay, so quick question. Usually could a suffix, sometimes can it be a syllable of its own? Could that maybe help determine if it is a
that is a
prefix
very
or
good
suffix?
point. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So when we broke the word gardener down, we broke it into gar, then den, and So gar, I don't think is a prefix. I don't know many words that start with gar as a prefix. You know, like if you look at it, think about bicycle. Bi means, sickle means wheel, bi means 2. So it's 2 wheels, bicycle. So, but I don't think it has a prefix. What do you think?
No, you're right. Gardener does not have a prefix.
Oh, okay.
So let's just put a big X in this box because this particular word does not have a prefix. We're not going to be using that one.
And if we don't have a prefix, then we don't have a meaning.
Exactly.
So we can put an X in the box below it. So it's like, we don't have to worry about that part. All right.
Okay. So now let's look at, so you mentioned breaking up the suffixes, or breaking up the syllables. So let's look at those, each of our syllables, and see if we could find a suffix on that one.
And you said a suffix comes at the end of the word, so I'm not gonna have to worry about this syllable. And I wanna look at these two syllables, maybe. So I know at the end of this word is ER. I don't think den would be a suffix, because that's more than, it's not at the main end, and it is also, so.
So let's take off ER. If we take off ER, what do we have left?
Garden.
Garden. Is garden a word by itself?
I've heard garden used as a word by itself, so yeah, I think so.
Okay, so then we do have a suffix, which is going to be ER.
Ooh.
So our suffix is ER. So we're going to put our suffix right here.
Right.
And then, as you said, that leaves the word
Garden.
garden.
So
And we have heard that word, and that was a word in our
I think so.
story.
Yeah.
We taught they planted a garden. So we can put garden as is our root word. Because like you mentioned earlier, Doug, GAR doesn't stand by itself with a meaning, and neither does den. But if you put that together, that is our root word.
So GARDEN goes in the box that says root, and then suffix would be ER. Again, if you take that off, that's the off.
All right.
Right.
So now, the meaning of the suffix ER is one who or something that. So under the meaning in your next box, we're going to write one who or something that. So when you see the suffix of ER at the end of the word, it's going to mean one who or something that. So before we go into the meaning of garden, if we just know the meaning of the suffix ER, we know that this is going to mean one who or something that gardens. So probably a garden would be
What?
land or a place, field, whatever, land to grow, where plants grow.
And I'm going to write that meaning. And that box that says meaning. Land or ground where plants grow.
Okay, now we've broke this down. We know we have the meaning of garden. We have the meaning of our suffix, ER. So now our next one is, this word is prediction. A prediction is an educated guess. And what that means is you're kind of guessing because you're not real sure, but you have, the educated part is you have some knowledge, some of that background knowledge. You know the meaning of garden, you know the meaning of ER, so you're going to put what you do know and make a prediction of what you think this full word is.
Oh, okay.
So based on what we know, what do we think gardener means?
I know with a gardener, I think of someone. So I'm going to think of one who or someone who grows plants.
Okay.
You want me to write that up there?
Sure.
All right. So, someone.
And you made that connection of a person because you were telling your story about your grandfather, and obviously he is a person. So when we think it, and then in our story, I mean, they were animals, but they weren't a thing. I mean, it was somebody that
Right.
they represented a person
Okay.
that has to do it.
So
Someone who grows plants would be your prediction.
So I predict a gardener is someone who grows plants. Now, how do we check and make sure our prediction's correct?
Okay, so that leads us to our next one. It says definition. Now, this strategy is really good for if to figure out words, because if you use this process and work through this, then you're going to remember it better and easier because you have that understanding other than just going and looking it up in a dictionary or Google.
Right.
Okay, because you can look up a word and it's going to give you that definition, but you more than likely may not remember it as well. Right. So if you work through this strategy, it's going to help you remember it. But you want to make sure you're correct because you don't want to learn something wrong.
Good
So
point.
the last step is we're going to check our prediction with a dictionary definition or Google. So when we look up the definition of gardener, it says one who, there
One
it is,
who.
spends time cultivating plants and tending a garden.
Cultivating.
Now, if you notice when we read that dictionary definition, it may have words in it that we may not be familiar with, which is also could be a barrier sometimes, which is another reason these strategies are good. So, Steph and Bondo, when they come in, they're going to talk more about the cultivating, and because that's like fostering growth and helps plants grow and things like that. So they'll talk more into that. But we see that's one who, and it actually has the word garden in the definition.
That was our root word.
It is our root word.
Wow.
And then going back up to the meaning, we have the word plants in our meaning. So you can see the connection. So I do like your prediction was correct. I like your words better. It makes sense to you. This would be what you would call a kid-friendly definition. You own this definition yourself.
Right.
And it's easy that you can carry it with you.
And I like the kid-friendly definition, works really well for me.
The next step is we've got our definition, we've talked about it. Now the next thing that would help you remember that is to give a visual example.
A visual? As a picture?
As a picture,
Oh.
yes. So you want to get a picture so that you can have something that you can look at and see to make that connection to gardener. So, so we have this picture of a gardener, and you can see he's got a basket and he's gathered up maybe some tomatoes and
Radishes.
radishes, and you can see he's got his tool that he's been working in the garden. So this would be a visual example of a gardener.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then also, you can talk about, just to make sure we fully understand what a gardener is, we could give some non-examples. So we know what we've talked about what a gardener is.
Right, okay.
So let's talk about some non-examples.
Okay. I like to eat vegetables, especially on hamburgers. Am I a gardener?
Did you plant those vegetables? And did you work in the garden and weed and water?
No, that's too hard work. No, I didn't do that.
So just because you ate them, that doesn't make you a gardener. So you
But
are
they're
not
plants.
Huh?
But they're plants.
They are plants, but you didn't grow them.
Oh, okay. So
So if you did not grow them, you are not a gardener.
I got one. I drove the tomatoes and the corn and the beans to the county market, and I sold them there.
Okay, so you put the plants in the truck,
Yes.
and you drove the truck.
Yes.
Okay, did you plant those vegetables? Did
No.
you work in that garden and pull those weeds?
No.
So you would not be the gardener. You would be the truck driver for the vegetables, but you are not the gardener.
Still an important job.
Still a very important job, but you are the truck driver. That would be an example of a truck driver, not a gardener.
Cool. So we could. All right. Okay. All right. Got one more. I did plant watermelons, and I did make sure the seeds were growing, and there were no weeds in it, and I did tend to those watermelons. Am I a gardener? Yes, because I planted the
you
plants
did
and I
it.
tended the garden. Woo! Good
So-
for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So thank you. Great. So like Miss Chastity was saying, some examples and the non-examples. And then another non-example would be if I just sold the fruits and the vegetables. I didn't plant them or anything. They just came to me, and then I sold them for my friend or whatever. So, all right. Awesome.
Before we go on to the next word, I do want to talk a little bit more about the suffix of ER and show you how the meaning of the suffix ER works and how you can use that to figure out new words. So you probably can think of some on your own, but I'm going to use this one as an example. And this word is teacher. Teacher. So there's our suffix.
ER, I found that. First we gotta say the word, teacher. Then we gotta scoop or sound it out in case we don't know how to pronounce the word correctly.
So let's scoop it.
Syllables.
Ready?
Yeah, teacher.
Teacher.
That's only got 2 syllables.
It does.
Wow, so this one should be easy to figure out. We said that suffix went at the end, right? So this is our 2 letters at the end, ER. And we already know what the ER means.
Yep. One who or something that.
Right.
Okay. And what are they doing?
And if we think back, the suffix refers back to the root word, so that teaches. So a teacher is one who teaches.
Teaches.
Awesome.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yes, yes.
All right, let's do one more and we'll move on to our next word. Our last word is learner. 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 All right, let's scoop this one real fast. Learner. Learner. So that one also has 2 syllables.
Awesome. All right, I got that. I can say the word. I got the syllables. Now I look for my suffix. It goes at the end of the word. And this one, again, is our suffix of ER. So can I circle it or underline it?
Whatever
just so
you
that
wanna
we
do.
understand that that is our suffix. And so again, we're thinking, is it one who or is it something that? So,
Well, let's look at our root word
oh, I forgot to look at the root word.
and see. So your root word is learn.
Learn, okay.
So would if something, thinking of learning, would that be someone learns or something like an object learn? Does an object learns, or would it be a person?
I think of a person. I think of a person. So again, going back to our suffix of ER, we know that it means one who or something that. I think it's one who. So we refer back to our root word, is that right? Then it would be
Learn.
one.
So one who learns.
Oh,
Pretty
I can
cool,
use that
huh?
strategy. Yes,
I could do this all
awesome.
day long. I love meaning word parts and breaking them down.
Right.
It's cool.
Well, I can see how this would be a really good strategy for our teachers out there. To have them,
Absolutely, yes.
and for you young folks that are just learning new words, new vocabulary words, things like that. Very good job.
And this word part strategy is morphology. Just a little nugget of information.
She throw a big word out there. I don't want to try to scoop that one.
Okay, well, you're fixing that all.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our next strategy, you will need an index card. You just need one. I think you may have a few extra in case you all want to do some more with different words, but we're just going to use one. And
Chalk paper swooping.
take off. Here, do this.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, so we got your index card. We're going to put a big T in the middle of this index card. Now, me, when I'm trying to draw a T or in the middle of it, I always get crooked or off center or whatever. So if you want to, take your index card and you fold it over. I think someone said this is hamburger style. Fold it and then crease the middle of it. So you got it folded in half. It works for me. Then again, you want to take it and then fold it in half hot dog style. So fold it in half the other way. I think that's what it's called. Am I right?
I think so.
Think so. Then crease it again and try to get it folded as neatly as possible. And then right in the middle of this, after you get through folding it, if you unfold it, you can take your marker or a pencil or a pen and draw out the T.
And I've recreated the same thing up here on the chart paper. I just did it on a bigger surface just so you guys can see it, but it's the same thing.
And if you're like me, just get it the best that you can. If you get close to the center, just so your paper is divided into 4 sections that you can write in and be ready to use to draw a picture. All right, and what's this strategy?
All right. This strategy is one of the Freyer model examples. You can we chose to do word, definition, sentence, and picture. You can do a couple of different ideas with it, but this is, I think, is more straightforward and one of my favorites. So what you do first is you pick what your vocabulary word you want to go over, and our next word is going to be fertilizer.
What a word, fertilizer.
So we're going to write our word fertilizer in the first box.
So one of your boxes on your index card that we just folded and made a big T, write the word fertilizer. Fertilizer. One more time. Fertilizer. Now we're going to do syllables with this word too?
I think so. I think we should. Because again, you want to make sure that you can pronounce the word correctly so that you know it. Right? Okay, are we ready? Okay, so the word is fertilizer. All right, I'm going to scoop and Doug's going to clap.
All right, I get the easy part.
Okay, here we go.
Fertilizer. Oh no, that's got 4.
That's okay. It does have 4.
That's a big
That's
word.
why we break them apart, because even though words are big, if you really look at them, we can break them down and they're not going to be overwhelming.
Okay, all right.
All right. What, do you notice anything familiar?
I do. I noticed something.
What is
Notice something. We were talking about it already. I noticed this word has a suffix because I looked at the end first thing and I saw the suffix that we talked about with gardener, and that suffix is er. So we know that's one who or something that.
Perfect.
So I remember that.
Yes.
All right. I'm rolling now.
So based on what we know, then we could say that er is one who or something that, and what is left is fertilize. Fertilize. One who or something that fertilize.
Uh-oh, that looks tricky. I don't think it's got any prefixes. So I think our root word is fertilize a root word?
So can we break that down? Can fertilize be broken down? Is there a word inside fertilize that you can make it smaller and it still have a meaning to it?
And it's a word that's hard to say and don't know the definition of, so we can still make predictions, but I think that word is fertile. Was that the word?
Have you heard of I've heard of fertile before without the eyes at the end. So
Yes.
fertile.
Yes.
So fertile this word is very tricky. It actually has 2 suffixes.
2. Wow.
Yeah, it does. So you have IZE is also a suffix. And they do drop the E's. If you notice, fertile would have an E on it, and then IZE and then ER. So they just drop some of the E's when you're writing them. All right, so IZE has a meaning, and that means to make.
Wait, all right. So we got one who or something that, and
And
then to make.
to make. And then you had said our root word is fertile. So now we have broken this apart. So based on what we know now, what would you say our definition would be?
So I'm thinking maybe it's not a one who. It's not a who. I'm thinking maybe it's something that makes fertile. Was that close?
Yeah, it's
Is that
very
a prediction?
close. Yeah, that would be a prediction. What are we talking about? So it's going to make fertile, but think about our topic for the day. So what are we wanting to make fertile?
So we're talking about gardening and gardeners and farming and plants.
Wait, and
is
where
what
do
we're
plants
talking about.
grow?
Plants grow in a garden.
All right, and so a garden is
Where plants grow, so we need
Ground.
ground,
Soil.
where plants grow. Yeah, so we need something to make the ground Fertile.
When you're planting a garden, you're wanting your plants to grow big and you want a lot of them.
Right, okay.
Because when you're working hard and planting them, you want to have an abundance, a lot
Okay.
of plants. So gardeners use fertilizer in order to do that. It makes it more fertile. So the word fertile would mean making it abundant, a lot of them, growing bigger and taller.
Oh, okay. All right. So something that makes the soil ideal for crops to grow.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So after
Now.
we've got our word, we've written our definition, and then you can also, before you move on, you could do a dictionary definition, look it up just to double check yourself, write your definition. Now we're going to write a sentence. Now this one is, I'm going to give you an example of a sentence, but you write your own sentence. Now, also, you can, if you're not really sure exactly kind of what what it would look like, this will be a good time to show a visual example before we move on.
Oh.
So we're going to give a word, a definition, and then we're going to show our visual example again, just so that you can picture it.
I've got a picture. It is the gardener's hand. I mean, it's hard to see, but the gardener's hand, he's got some little pellets or whites, and he's putting it around the plants, and that is what?
Fertilizer.
Yeah.
So the little white there is the fertilizer that is around the plant. So that is your visual example of what fertilizer would be. Now that you've gotten that information, now you can write your own sentence. And this one, you write it so that you can make that connection. So when you hear that word, then you're going to think of the sentence that you wrote with that word. And that will help you with the understanding. So let's come up with a sentence. And you want to, of course, put the word in it. Do you have a sentence?
I got a sentence.
Okay, what is it?
I put fertilizer on the flowers to make them tall.
Perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool. I'm going to put this up here.
I put, and again, you can copy this one or you can write your own, either one. Fertilizer on the flowers to make them tall. I put fertilizer on the flowers to make them tall.
But I bet Miss Stephanie will say, don't put them on the flowers, you put it on the ground around the flowers. But I think it's a cool sentence, so we'll let Miss Stephanie
handle it. It is a cool sentence.
That.
So again, it doesn't have to necessarily be completely accurate as long as you make that connection to get the definition accurate.
Okay. All right.
And the last one is the most fun. It says, we've labeled this picture. So we've shown you a visual example. Now you're going to make your own visual example. So you get to draw your own picture of when you hear the word fertilizer, what do you picture in your mind? And then you get to draw it.
I want to see your picture.
You want me to draw the picture?
I want you to draw the picture. If I wrote the sentence, I want to see you draw the picture.
Well, I am just going to, you had talked about flowers, so I'm going to connect my picture to my sentence of flowers. So I'm going to draw a flower. Okay, and then I'm going to draw some fertilizer on the flower. Now, fertilizer can look a little bit different. It could be like the pellets, but it could also be in liquid form. So I am going to draw a watering can. Maybe. And I'm going to sprinkle this liquid fertilizer on my flower. I'm pouring it. So there's my picture. So you all draw the picture that you want to do.
And then also when you get your picture done, talk to your neighbor, your friend, your teacher, and explain your picture to them. Tell them what your picture is and you know what it looks like, because you know some of my pictures I know exactly what I want them to look like, and it's fun to explain those to my neighbor and my classmates so that they'll see, oh yeah, that is cool, that's right.
Yeah,
so,
well, a perfect
awesome
example is I am really sure that if you looked at my picture you would have really no idea what that is, so and you can talk that through. And also when you voice it and talk it through, when you teach something, then that helps you remember it.
Oh, okay.
So you get to have a turn as a teacher also.
Awesome.
And yeah, so alright, that's it.
All right. So that's kind of wraps up our Miss Chastity's vocabulary section of our presentation today. Just quick, if she wants to go back over and review real quick the couple of strategies that she taught. The first one is the word map.
Word mapping strategy. Yep.
And then the word mapping strategy, which is really cool. I like that. It helped me to understand what a prefix and a suffix was and how you can break words down and to find the meanings of those words if you're not sure.
Morphology.
Morphology, thank you. And then this one, this was cool though. I like this. What was this thing called again?
It's a Freyer model.
Okay, so I like the way that you put the word up there. This is a new word that we're just being introduced to, so we're improving our vocabulary. Then we find a definition of that word. Then we write a sentence of that word. Again, kid-friendly, student-friendly, Dougie-friendly definitions work best because that's what helps you understand what that word means. Then you write a sentence or tell a story about the word, and then you draw a picture to represent what that looks like in your mind. So.
And also by reading a story, we build some background knowledge, and that will also help you it gives you some terminology from that story, and so your mind, it kind of sets the tone, so when you move into the vocabulary piece, then it also helps when to come up with ideas for your definitions.
And I like stories because they pique your interest. They get you interested in what you're going to be talking about or what you're going to be learning about. And I just like stories. They're just a lot of fun. So, and that's what school's about, having fun.
It is.
All right. So thank you all. Hope you enjoyed our part of the presentation. Again, the name of the book was Tops and Bottoms by Janet Stevens. And again, you can use these books to help teach social emotional learning activities, provide for decision-making skills, life skills curriculum.